Hi folks, it is a glorious blue sky, sunny day. There are no clouds in the sky whatsoever. It is just beautiful. Today is the 27th of September and I'm going to take you on a garden tour. I seem to be moving closer and closer to the end of the month, so I think this is fitting. I will do a tour at the end of every month and then we can see the progress over that month that I have been gardening out here. Of course, we had that severe hailstorm that came through, ripped through quite a lot of my garden, and so I definitely don't have as much to show you as I would normally, or it doesn't look as, pretty or as green as it would normally look. So let's just have a walk through the garden and see what there is to show you. Okay, here we are at vegetable patch 1 and there's not really much to show. We have not extended the garden yet. We plan to do this very soon. So there's quite a bit of grass in this bed and the dogs are looking for mice in the cardboard back down there. So I'm sure we'll find some interesting things when we move the cardboard finally and completely extend this bed to the size that it is intended to be. So we have rhubarb through here and the rhubarb got shredded by the hail. It really took a hard hit. There's even indents on some of the stalks of the rhubarb. It just shredded the leaves and yeah, pretty much there's like white dots all over the stalks. So that's all there really is to see in this garden bed. Not much to show. Let's move on to vegetable patch number 2. Okay, so here we have vegetable patch 2 and I need to take all of the netting and frost cloth off before I can show you this bed. Okay, so in the first row of this garden patch, we have a lot of calendula and dill growing in this patch. There's probably a bit of fennel as well where the dill's coming up. So it's a little bit hard to tell which is which, but when you pick them and taste them, you definitely know the difference. So we have some Savoy cabbages, which are doing quite well, although I do have one here that has gone to seed. So I'll probably be harvesting some of these and just using their leaves, because this one going to seed is just showing me that, it's their time. It's probably due to me not watering as much in their earlier life as well. And we've got some oregano growing quite well here. I could actually do a small harvest here and put that in the dehydrator. I have a couple of cornflower plants as well, and this one got quite heavily damaged from the hail. It sort of hasn't really bounced back completely, but it has got all these new buds on them and some flowers, which is great. Okay, here we have some green sprouting broccoli. So I've got quite a few of these and I've been harvesting from them quite often. Here's one that has some ready to harvest off. So I already harvested a few off this one already. And I've also been using the leaves on these as well in stir fries and frittatas and anything really. Mostly the smaller leaves compared to the bigger, tougher leaves. And I've also got some coriander. Coriander's just everywhere in my garden. You can just see lots and lots of coriander plants coming up. And I planted some red spring onions in here and they're doing okay. I think a few of them got hit by the hail. This garden didn't get hit from the hail as badly as my vegetable patch 3. So yeah, we'll get to that patch in a moment, but this one has survived quite well, although parts of this row were out in the open more than the other parts that had netting on them. This one had some frost cloth on it, so that's why it survived. So I have loads of mint coming up, and I have been harvesting and dehydrating and using the mint in smoothies and all sorts of dishes. I'll come back and harvest today and put the dehydrator on again. I think I have it on with some calendula flowers in there. But I definitely need to utilize this sunshine this weekend. And here we have the spinach. Now, this spinach is quite old, that one too, but these ones are younger. I still haven't amended this soil. I've been really bad at getting out here and doing that, but I've been waiting for a time when it's going to rain and it's not going to be windy. So this weekend looks like a good weekend to do it, although some of these plants look much happier than they did last time we moved through here. I've got a little bit of chives coming up. There's also a chive here. There's also a weed and a coriander plant growing right next to it. Oh, and more chives here too. So these are slowly coming back. There's another one. So here we have some potatoes. These are Dutch cream potatoes, and you can see they're popping their heads up. I've just put this manure on top yesterday, so I haven't watered it down. I have put the drippers on, but I need to get the hose out and water the manure down. I've got another potato coming up here, which I didn't plant, so this is coming up from last year's potatoes. I've got some random brassicas here, which I think will probably come out soon. One went to seed. I've already harvested some of the seed heads to eat, or the flowers rather. There's a kale in there and more potatoes in here, which the potatoes are sort of taking over where I've got some garlics. And look, I did have garlic throughout this whole patch, this whole little bit here. But a few things happened to the garlics. One, the cockatoos, and two, I think a few got snapped by my lovely dogs. So that was a little bit annoying. So yeah, they're not as big this year as I've had them in the past. So I really have to up my game with the garlic and get them back to how I used to grow them. So yeah, these will eventually get harvested, and then the potatoes will take over this space even more. And at the end, we've got our compost bins again. This one is breaking down nicely, but we put some grass cuttings in there recently. And at the end of the garden bed here, we have the nettle and some dandelions and a random poppy. So the nettle took a big hit when the hail came. It was just absolutely shredded, and you can see it's just all like black where it's been burnt from the frost. And I was really disappointed because it was looking so lush and so big, and I was just about to harvest all of it, to dry some and to put some into smoothies, make some tinctures. It was basically, it all looked like this, except it didn't have any of the blackness around the outsides of the leaves. Okay, so since the last tour, I have put straw down in the pathways. I normally put wood chip down in my pathways, but we have not yet cut our big lot of wood that we harvested, so I am yet to get some wood shavings. And look, I have a few arborists that I've notified, but there's just no tree chopping jobs in this area at the moment, so I'm waiting patiently. But in the meantime, I have used this straw. It's going pretty well. There are a few seeds in it. You can see some of them have shot up here. So I'm just pulling them out, basically putting them down on top or throwing them onto the grass, and they're dying, so that's good. The soil is looking quite dry here, but I think it's just because I've thrown some manure on top, and it takes a while for the manure to, see there, it's quite moist underneath. See, that's beautiful soil underneath. And you squeeze it like that and it still retains its shape. It could do with a water, but yeah, I've been putting the irrigation on every day, so it should start changing. So I've got a few corianders down this row. These ones are going to seed, so I'm just trying to harvest from them as much as possible. I've got another cornflower plant, which it looks like it might be pink or purple, but it's hard to tell. These ones came up by themselves, so they're just all coming up by themselves. I've got my sweet peas here, which, as you can see, look at all these white dots. It took, quite a hitting when the hail came. But it's bouncing back because it's got this beautiful green shoot up here, and it is going to continue growing up, aren't you? You're going to continue growing up. I've got some kale next to it and some more coriander. Major patch of coriander here. Major patch of shredded kale here, but I think my daughter has been taking the heads off these because it went to seed and she's been feeding it to the sheep, so that's why it looks like this. It's ready to take out, really. And at the very end of the row we have the catmint and another kale that is going to seed and has lots of aphids on it. So I don't mind, you can have some aphids on it. Okay, and now we have row number 3. So in the front here we have some potatoes. I'm pretty sure it's Nicola potatoes in this part, with some radishes in the middle. And I've got a dandelion plant as well. Then we've got this large batch. Oh, this has this also has aphids on it. So this kale is also going to seed. I am about to do a massive harvest of kale and I'm going to dry it. Every year I make kale powder or a green powder, depending on what other vegetables I want to put in the powder, and we just add it to soups and stews and whatever we want to add a bit more greens. And you only have to add a small amount because the powder is highly concentrated. Okay, so here we've got more potatoes. So I'm probably going to take this patch of kale out and I'm going to plant more potatoes in here. So this row will become very much potatoes. Girls, what are you doing? This is what happens when I take the netting off. They start fossicking around in my garden. Okay, so this fennel just won't give up. I chopped the plants out, but I haven't chopped the roots out. So fennel is one of those plants that just wants to keep coming back. I've got a bit of bronze fennel here. I think I'll just eventually move this bronze fennel. I've moved all the other bronze fennel that used to be over there. I've got another kale. So yeah, I've got more Nicola and some Dutch cream potatoes in here. Then I've got this big patch of dandelions. They're looking very, very happy. And I've got another massive patch of coriander again, and this is all going to seed. It's much, here's a weed. It's much warmer under the netting, and so I'm finding the ones under the netting are going to seed, and they're much more lush than these ones out here. But that also could have to do with the hail that we had and the fact that this bed didn't get affected by the hail, but these did. So we'll just, see how we go. And okay, so this kale here doesn't seem to be affected by aphids at all. So this one's doing all right, but yeah, they're going to seed. So I will definitely be taking out this patch as well. I'll be preserving all of the leaves in the powder, as I said, and with this patch too. So there's lots of kale here. I've got this patch of, if Luna will get out of the way, I've got this patch of leek here. So these leeks have come up all by themselves. There's a couple of weeds and a couple of calendulas there. More dandelion. That one's looking so lush. If you remember back quite a few videos ago, or maybe in my last tour, the cockies had eaten out half of this plant, like in the root as well, and it has just bounced back just beautifully. So there you go, the plants are coming back. I've transplanted some of these leeks here, so that's why they're looking a little bit sad. Also, yeah, they just got a few brown leaves, but they'll come good. And I've also transplanted some fennel. I've got some coriander here. I've got the mullein along here. So I've got quite a few medicinal herbs in this garden. This is some leek that's been in here that's been in here all winter, and I can see one flower head here, which tells me it's time to harvest these. So you don't want them to go to seed, obviously, because they get woody, and these ones are quite dense. These ones came up from seed themselves. I need to dig some of these up, and I will be doing that this weekend. I'll be making a few batches of soup and things, so I'll be using these in the soup. Here we've got some clary sage, and we've got this random celery plant which I really need to take out. So we'll just duck around the compost bin. So another compost bin. If you haven't heard me before, I have a compost bin at the end of every row, except not at the end of the Rio rows. So I have them at the end of every row, every wide row in my vegetable garden. I've got some yarrow, some white yarrow at the end of this bed, and a few of the seeds have moved over here. So I've got some new plants coming up. And then I have, I'm pretty sure this is valerian. So these two are outside of the netting. So they're very small. And then this one, they're all planted at the same time last year. This one is inside the netting. Look at that. It is so much bigger. It is so much bigger than the others. So very happy being under the netting and having all of that warmth that the netting provides compared to these two that are out in the cold. Okay, so moving on down row number 3. So row number 3 has the Rio, and I plan to plant some climbing beans or something onto this Rio, but at the moment I've just got some random coriander and I've got lots of fennels along here. So I'm not sure how well these fennels are going to do, but they look pretty happy so far. They just need a bit of a water. I mean, there's heaps of water underneath. As I said, this top layer of the manure is my mulch basically, so it can be quite dry on the top, but when you get down to where the plant's roots are, there's a lot of moisture in there. So it might look dry, but the top layer is my mulch, so it is going to be dry. It's acting as mulch. More kale. Look at our first kale flower coming out there. Okay, so these peas here, they got hit pretty badly from that hail. So there's this one here which is trying to come back, which I'm going to leave it. And there's another couple down here which are, they seem okay. So I'm going to leave them and see how they go. But yeah, they got hit quite badly by that hailstorm. And the ones that were down here, where I have planted my first 4 potato plants, they completely died. So that's why I have put the tomatoes here, and they're doing quite well. We had a frost last night, and I had the frost cloth on both sides of this Rio to protect them. But I think this frost cloth here is getting quite thin, so I'm not sure that it is giving enough protection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out this one for another one and see how I go there, and hopefully there'll be no more frost damage on the leaves of the tomatoes. Okay, and the last row here, as you can see, I have not finished putting the straw all the way down this path. That is my job after I've finished talking to you guys and showing you around. And I, just before the hailstorm came, I did the newspaper down here and put manure on top, and I have planted out since then. Some of these are looking a bit sad because I worked all day yesterday and it was sunny like this, and they needed water. They needed water, and the things that needed the water the most were the beetroots. And I'm not too worried. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick some more seed into where I've planted them and see, look, these ones have come good. They're pretty happy. But yeah, these ones probably, I don't know, they might come back. But I'm not too worried because beetroot is quite easy to grow. I've never really had any trouble with beetroot. So I'm just going to put some more seed into these. But I wanted to show you that I fail at things too. Everybody does. That's, it's the nature of gardening. We have other things in our lives as well. It's really hard. We're not full-time gardeners, so some things do fail. But I've got a whole heap of lettuces along that side of this row, and got some little red sorrels coming up here. They're just titsy tiny, absolutely tinsy tiny. But yeah, I've planted out a few things here. I've got a random cabbage there, and I've got a spinach here, and I have a broccoli, a purple sprouting broccoli here. So I've got some tall things that are growing alongside the shorter, smaller things. So that's all I have growing there. And then I've planted nothing along here. And then we come to this patch here, which the cockatoos hit quite a few times before I put this long netting over, because after the hail, the frost cloth that was over these spinach plants, it ripped into shreds from the hail. So I've got spinach in here still, but it's kind of, looking a bit shabby after the hailstorm. So it's got white flecks on it too, and there's leaves that are just half leaves, and yeah. So this area I'm still harvesting from, and I will leave these plants in the ground and keep harvesting from them until my other spinach plants that I plan to plant out soon will, start producing, and then I will move on to harvesting from those. These corianders, they also got hit really hard by the hail. They weren't under any protection whatsoever, so they got hit quite hard, but they're bouncing back, which is great. I've got a couple of cabbages here that are going to seed, so I need to take them out. But as you can see there, the stem is really long, and it's, looks like a beautiful plant, but that stem, as soon as it gets long, they're heading up to the sun, they're heading to seed. I need to take this celery out as well, and then I've got beetroots along here, which I have been harvesting from. We harvested a couple the other day and ate them, and they were delicious. And under here, under this frost cloth, so I think I have a failed patch of carrots here. So this was not covered with the frost cloth. It was covered with netting at the time that the hailstorm hit, but I'm a bit concerned that my seeds all got displaced in the hailstorm. So I'm not sure. I've been using the frost cloth to keep the moisture in, which it is doing, and I just keep watering. And I'll see if the carrot doesn't come up here, then it will be coming up in other patches that I'm going to plant out. So for instance, further down here, I'm going to do another big patch of carrots, and I'll also be doing some in the next vegetable garden, which I'm going to take you to in a moment. But I'm just going to leave this one. If it doesn't work, then this will be where I put some of my capsicums and chilies, and we just won't worry about the seed that we wasted there. Sometimes we waste seed, and that's how it is. I've got this wormwood plant looking gorgeous down the end here, and another compost bin. This is the compost bin we're using at the moment. We put a little flag, which is made by an arrow that broke, the tip broke off. So we put a little ribbon on it, and it just tells everybody, because various people have the job of bringing the compost out in our household. So it tells everybody that this is the compost bin that we need to be putting our compost in at the moment. And with our compost bins, I put layers. So I put absolutely everything in the compost bin. The only thing I find that doesn't break down are avocado pits, but I just put them in anyway. So I put shredded paper in here as well, leaves if we have them. So in autumn, I'd put leaves in. So it's getting pretty full, and eventually I will have to empty. I think this one's the next one to empty. I will empty it. I will put it on that row and anywhere else in my garden where compost is needed. But the idea is that each compost bin is dedicated for the row that it's on, or the small row that is next to it. So that's our composting system. Okay, folks, what do you think about this garden? It looks very different to the last vegetable tour that we did. Oh, one of the apples is bursted with blossoms. I get easily distracted, sorry, by my garden. So yeah, we made the decision after that hailstorm. This garden just had so much destruction to it after it that we decided just to brush cut. So we brush cut. Latham helped me. I took all the irrigation pipes. So we took all these off the beds and he brush cut through while he was doing the apple rows. You can see some cape weed coming up. There's lots of grass. You can definitely see the weeds coming back. I can see some of this celery that just won't give up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cardboard and newspaper this garden and manure it on top and start again. The last row has quite a few plants in it still. The middle here has thyme, which we're discussing rehoming somewhere else. It really should be out in the front garden where all our herbs, or most of our herbs and flower plants are. But thyme wasn't growing well out there, so I ended up planting it here. I've got some walking Egyptian onions as well that I wanted to keep in this garden. And I've got a small patch of garlic, which it's bouncing back after the hail, but it's not doing too well. I almost forgot to mention the potatoes that I have planted in these pots. They have not stuck their heads up yet, so we'll just wait patiently for them to do so. I only just planted these last week, so these I'm not expecting them to sprout up this week. But I just wanted to mention that when I did my video for the potatoes here, I said a few things that I probably just said in exhaustion because I was just, reacting from such a hard week from having that hailstorm come through and been working so much, that I mentioned I'd put lime or dolomite onto these pots. I'm not going to do that. I'm probably going to put some blood and bone into these pots, but other than that, the manure is probably going to do all that it can. I'll wait until the shoots come up. I'll wait until the plants are showing me whether they need some adjustments to the soil. But yeah, this is all that I'm going to be putting in here, pretty much just the manure and some blood and bone. I'm probably going to be making some weed teas, and I'll probably give them a bit of a feed with some weed tea as well. But yeah, I do apologize if I made people think that it's right to put lime and dolomite. I just generally always put dolomite or gypsum on my garden to bring the calcium levels up, especially when I'm planting things like brassicas. They need a lot of calcium, but every plant is taking some calcium from the soil. But yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. And always do your own research, particularly when I talk about the medicinal herbs as well. I do a lot of research into herbs. So yeah, I highly recommend doing your own research so you know exactly what you should be doing. And everyone's conditions are different. Everyone's soil is different. Everyone's going to be adding different things into their garden because of their needs. So there we go. I just wanted to mention that. Okay, my friends, that is enough talking for me. I'm ready to get into my garden and get some gardening done today. And all weekend, I'm just going to be spending my time right here. So I hope you enjoyed that little garden tour. I look forward to the next one, and hopefully there won't be as much destruction to my garden this month. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, all of those things. I'm really hoping that that was the last of the hail. Take care and enjoy your garden. See you next time, friends. Bye.